everyone. Welcome to the CSD's Member Empowerment Webinar Series, Unlocking Mission Impact Through People Strategy. And we are absolutely thrilled to have Rachel Platt with us. She brings 20 plus years of experience helping organizations and individuals achieve enduring success through strategic human resources leadership. Through her executive roles in diverse organizational structures and industries, she built her reputation on her track record of developing pragmatic solutions to meet complex organizational and people challenges. Rachel founded Platinum Consulting in 2018 to guide leaders in moving beyond day-to-day HR and compliance and to implementing a holistic people strategy that aligns with their business strategy and mission. Platinum's work addresses systemic and sustainable initiatives in the areas of employee engagement, leadership development, culture, performance management, inclusion, and coaching. As a certified women's business enterprise, Platinum serves small and medium-sized nonprofits and commercial businesses across the U.S. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Rachel.
Well, hello. We're a very small group, and so I'm hoping to make this very, very informal and informative. So thank you, Natalie, for inviting me, and thank you for the introduction. Um, as we get started with with this presentation today, I truly would love to make this interactive using your organizations, your examples, your experiences as part of our dialogue. My philosophy is we are going to learn with and from each other. And if I am speaking for the next 54 minutes, it's going to be very boring. I know a lot, but it will be a lot more fun, I can promise you, if we are all in it together. So, with that, thank you for being here. And feel free, you certainly can raise your electronic hands if you know how to do it down at the bottom. But you can truly just shout out and be like, hey, can I ask a question? Or hey, I'm going to add something in. Um, so please feel free. This is a dialogue that we are having. Our topic today is talking about how to make the most through people strategy of your organization. And how does that differ from straight HR? And how does that apply if you are a small employer? You may only have two or three or one employee, versus how does that apply if you have a large employee base, or even sometimes much of this applies to volunteers as well. So I don't know your organizations that well, but let's let's dig in here and let's really talk about how you can really, with investment in your people, you can have a tremendous impact on your mission. So I just want to make sure that everyone can see my screen and that it changed. Can I get like a little thumbs up just to say, yes, we're all good? Okay, good. Thank you, Natalie.
Yeah, looks good.
That makes me happy to know that we are doing the right thing. Although fascinating is that it is not showing me my screens. So, oh, okay, there we go. So, what are we going to cover today? Well, we're going to talk about what people strategy actually is, why this should matter to you, what you can do regardless of your budget. This does not need to cost a whole lot in dollars, but it does take an investment in terms of time and effort. And that is where we're going to focus ourselves. And as I said, open to, or I'm wanting to give you lots of practical examples of real things that you can do and make a real impact in your organization. So let's go, if we can. And thank you again, Natalie, for the intro. Just a little bit about me because people tend to ask. So I was a chief people officer of a $500 million management consulting firm. I worked for many other large organizations in the Fortune 500 that if you walked this earth, you know the names of several of them. Um, but I really found that I had gotten really far away from having the impact on the humans that do the work. And so in 2018, I left corporate and started Platinum. And we have been working primarily with not-for-profits and other purpose-driven organizations. I'm based in just outside of DC, but we have clients all across the US. I also have several clients in South Africa and have done a fairly significant amount of work in Europe as well. So that's just I think I have the coolest job dealing with people. But so often I talk to leaders who got started in the work that they're doing because they're really passionate about either the mission or they want to be an attorney serving a mission-driven or not-for-profits. They don't actually want to manage the humans that work there, however. And I think that's the coolest part. It certainly keeps things interesting. I don't know about you all in your everyday, but every once in a while, I'm like, really, did you wake up this morning wanting to be really strange at work today? That is, just something that happens, and I find it fascinating. So I truly love what I do, and I love helping organizations figure out ways to be better, create better environments where they are better able to attract, better able to retain, grow people, where not only is the organization thriving, but the human beings who work there are thriving. That is my mission in all of this. So enough about me. I really want to switch and just talk about the fact that the greatest nonprofits, the greatest organizations, and what you all do and your area of focus has such an impact on people's lives. But you can't fulfill those bold missions with burned out, with disconnected teams, folks who are burned out, folks who are unclear about what their job is or how they are truly contributing. And so we want to really think about how your people strategy connects to your fundraising success, how it connects to your service delivery, how it connects to your long-term sustainability. And there's a ton of research, McKinsey and Company, nonprofit HR, that organizations with strong internal alignment, they retain staff on average 2 times longer than other organizations and have a 10 percentage point higher um, donor confidence than organizations that where their teams are not aligned. So this matters. And what are some of those signs of misalignment? Things like high turnover, unclear roles, leadership bottlenecks, decisions not getting made, and so on and so on and so on. So from a human resources standpoint, there are often this spoke and wheel sort of model. It's almost like they're silos, if you think about it in a large organization. And what I have found in my work with many not-for-profits is that they either have unique folks who are looking at one, if they're large enough, they have unique teams that look at training and development, for example, or employee relations or comp and benefits. And they take all of those separate skills individually. And while there are certainly benefits to that, without looking at it holistically, you tend in smaller organizations or as organizations are going through times of struggle, they find that they don't feel that they have the funding for all of the roles that they actually need to deliver. And so what people strategy is really all about is finding the ways to holistically look at the employee life cycle and and making this easier for your executive directors, your leadership team, anybody who's in a people management role, because it's not one person's job to do certain aspects. And so we need to be thinking more broadly, and we need to be remembering that you cannot have an organization that is successful on passion alone. You need to have an organization where people are feeling valued and like they're able to contribute and that they are rewarded in a wide variety of different ways, um, in a way that allows them to live their best lives outside of work. So let's talk a little bit about what people strategy is. Um, as I mentioned a few times already, if you think about the entire employee life cycle, people strategy is looking at it holistically. How can I tie what I need to do from a compliance standpoint, from a best practices standpoint, from a keeping the HR trains running, so like a payroll standpoint, a benefits standpoint, how does my leadership team work? How do decisions get made? How are people rewarded? How are they promoted? How are they given opportunities in a way that really aligns with what our mission is, what our values are? And it's all along the employee life cycle. It's really making sure that you are investing in your people and in your organization's future. And so the assumption is often that the reason why not-for-profits sometimes have challenges hiring or retaining staff is, oh my goodness, if we only paid more, we would be able to do this or that. Um, but that's not necessarily the right way to look at it. Challenges are not resolved, not naturally resolved, just based upon money. And too many organizations blame money on everything. We don't have the fundraising, so we can't pay the people. We, you know, our rates are lower, whatever it is, when in fact there is so much that we can do as leaders to build out a community and a culture that supplements and meets people's needs in addition to their compensation needs. Because when more than 60%, the National Council of Nonprofits did a survey in 2024, and more than 60% said that they were leaving the nonprofit sector because of burnout, because no one was listening to them, because they did not feel that they were able to maximize their own contribution. So that tells us that we have a lot of work to do. Um, Tells us a lot of things, but it specifically tells us that there is a lot of work to do. And we have to nurture a talent pipeline. Um, and we have to find ways to show appreciation that is financially sustainable. And our people are telling us by voting with their feet that they're not finding it that way. So, before I go any further, does that resonate with you all? Are there questions?
This is Linda. It resonates with me. We have a lot of volunteers, and I see this more as a volunteer looking at it through that perspective. Staff pretty much is on board. It's just that most of our volunteers have been doing, it's the same volunteers doing all the work, and they're burning out, and it's hard to retain the newer to have them on board.
How many total volunteers do you have?
I don't know off the top of my head, but we have a lot of committees and of course the board. So probably somewhere between 60 to 100 every year.
That is quite a bit. And how many staff do you have?
So we have 5 staff internally to handle all of that.
You've got a lot on your plate.
Yes.
You have got a lot on your plate. So, uh, Sandy, anything from your side?
Yeah, I'm just thinking sort of back through several places that I've worked, and what I'm seeing right now is this feeling of sort of trauma-informed leadership that's needed. And some, I'm right now with a medical association, so I look at our members as volunteers and trying to harness the power of community and helping connect them with each other around the mission. And it just, our world right now is very hard for people to have the agency to do the things that they know are important to do. Um, and I think just trying to find a way to keep people motivated and valued during this very rocky time in
That's
our
the
country.
understatement of the year.
Um, I feel like there's moral injury. People want to do the good things and the right things, but you know, it's just much more difficult right now. And so, how do you harness a sense of belonging and support and care for people that are volunteering their time or working for a mission that is very important, but there's just so many roadblocks and hurdles right now that it's important to keep people motivated and moving forward and feeling a sense of accomplishment.
When everything feels very heavy.
Yeah.
Um, yes, I agree with you. And, I think that in so many ways, It is just, we say change is constant. And people know that change is always going to happen. I what I hear now, and I wonder if you feel the same thing, is yes, we know that change is constant, but it is the uncertainty of what that change could even possibly be on Monday versus Wednesday. And, and are we going to flip-flop back and things that we for so long had held sacred and had invested so much in, we just are seeing so much of that right now. Um, not sure where it's all going to land. And so it really is for so many that uncertainty, which is why thinking of your people as a strategic driver of your organization actually is so important because it doesn't, um, as you said, Sandy, the finding the space for people and their emotions, and what they are going through and keeping them motivated is is something that you can't buy it. You have to do it. And so that is a big part of what people strategy and using your people as a strategic driver is all about. And as you think about that, where, you know, you're going beyond just the day to day and compliance. You're doing more than what is required by law to be a legal employer, where you are saying, well, our strategy, what we look like on the outside is actually what we look like or are aspiring to look like on the inside. If you're serving, diverse communities or you are serving underserved communities, um, how are you creating space for employees to belong? How are a lot of organizations are very focused on, the voice of the patient. I know my clients are, and sometimes they forget about the voice of the employee. Not overriding the voice of the patient in patient services, but within their own world, they're making decisions in a vacuum without the people that it actually impacts. And that's where people strategy and thinking about what your mission is, and then how you apply that to the people who work for your organization is critical.
I'm curious about how you help foster resiliency in a situation where I know I've been in the healthcare ecosystem for 30 years, so I've watched it really evolve and change. And so many decisions that are being made do impact patients and the network of medical providers. And there's so much that's still out of everyone's control. And when you were talking about marginalized populations and at-risk groups, um, there's really a limited amount of access, um, even for people who aren't generally considered to have the same kinds of challenges with access. Decisions are made about medications that's an access issue. And so how do you build resiliency when you've got people that are trying to operate within a system that keeps putting roadblocks and barriers in the way of them being successful in doing what
Is the
they were
right thing.
trained. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well,
how do you build resiliency?
I think one of the ways, and what I'm working with some of my clients on are more ways to celebrate successes, being more intentional about big and small successes and recognizing them and determining that there are certain things that are outside of our control. And in fact, one of my clients, finally, I mean, this is not something I thought I was going to be talking about, but it is hilarious and sad and everything. But they literally have a like kids pin the tail on the donkey up on the wall. And they have created like their circle of influence. I'm sure you've seen like here are the things that I can influence, here are the things that I cannot control. And people come in all the time and put sticky notes up to here's something I'm dealing with today that I cannot control. And they stick it up on the outside the donkey, pin the tail on the donkey. And other times it's here are the things that I can control. And they've got some wins, they've got some losses in there, but they're trying to create the space for people to both kind of express what they're dealing with, but also just have like a shared visual of not everything is lost, even though it's outside of my control. I still had a win in this area. It might not have been as big of a win as I would have wanted. It's not meeting all of my dreams, but it's a step in the right direction, and let's celebrate that. Um, and it's also recognizing that it's hard to be resilient when it feels like you're standing in quicksand. Um, Go ahead, Sandy.
Oh, I wasn't going to say anything.
Oh,
I'm listening.
okay. I um
I
it's I because I can't see you, I thought it popped up that you breathed or something. So
did breathe.
I just heard I saw the sound. So I mean, those are some really small examples. I also have a number of clients who are really focused on, you know, their wellness initiatives and helping people to find what works for them to relieve stress, to um, find solid ground when it feels really hard to find solid ground. And they're spending a lot more time on the emotional aspects that people are dealing with. Whereas, not that they haven't been doing it for a really, for decades as well, and dealing with the evolution. But right now, they are consciously and intentionally dedicating time in meetings, dedicating time in their or space in their workspace to like be talking about these things, be offering people the opportunity to participate and talk about these things. Do you feel like any of that could help you?
Yeah, I think anytime that you have open dialogue and engage your staff or your membership or your intended service population, um, I think being heard and understood is such a critical component.
Yes.
And the safety to do that is also a big piece of building strength and trust.
Yes, you are 100% correct. And depending on your organization, um, if people, if sharing your disappointments is seen as a weakness, you are absolutely going to shut down innovation. You're going to shut down um, care. You're going to shut down that sense of team and togetherness that is what helps folks to get through really hard times. I mean, if you do comparisons, and there is no comparison, but there's a lot of work around, army troops or people who have been through war, who have witnessed some terrible, traumatic things. What gets so many of them through is going through it with others, knowing that they're not alone. So finding that time and that space um, is really critical to building resiliency and to minimizing, however we can, burnout of our people, because it's not easy. It is not easy. Um, so the key things here really are focusing on culture, clarity, and capability. What's it like to work here? What's it like to volunteer here? Do people, exactly as you were saying, do they feel seen, heard, and valued? If is somebody doing something? Are they taking action when they have input that says, and are they addressing it transparently? Yes, we all would like an extra gazillion dollars to do all of these things for our staff. Um, and we don't have it. But here's what we can do. And how do we at least say, we've explored this, it is not within our budget right now, but we think that this could still have an incremental impact for us. How do we say to people, what can we do for you? What can we do with you? um, and help them to solve for some of the solutions, because nobody has all the answers. So go to the source. That's a lot of what we're hearing from organizations right now when they're talking about what their workplace culture is. It's, can I speak up? A lot of what we're also hearing, much more than even I, I feel like it's at its pinnacle um, since COVID, is, do people really know what is expected of them? Are they clear on what the goals and the mission of the organization are, and how their work truly aligns with that? Um, are we looking at where there are overlaps or inconsistencies or gaps between roles that nobody actually owns certain pieces? So, do people understand how those decisions are made? Do they know who to speak to if they have identified a gap or an opportunity that they want to advocate for? That clarity is where a lot of the data is saying our nonprofit leadership is so focused on the mission that they are unable to help us to be focused on the mission, because there's so much mismatch and there's so much either overlap or gaps in how we do our work, that we're not able to be as successful in meeting the mission as we would if we actually took the time and were deliberate and like really mapped out who does what around here? Where are the bottlenecks? How do decisions get made? And then finally, talking about capability and just really understanding, are people equipped to do the job? Have we, so many people are put into roles and not given the training to do those roles, or they're wearing so many hats, and they don't know how to um, gain the skills or the knowledge because there's nobody internally to learn from. And they've heard so frequently there's not budget for training. And that is really, really difficult. So finding solutions to those things that are doable and possible solutions is what this is really all about. So, what does people strategy actually look like? Well, it does mean setting expectations with members of your team. It does mean setting goals. So many organizations, one of my new clients right now, we're going to get there, but gosh, is it frustrating to hear, and there's 15 employees, and I've met with many of them. At least 10 of the 15 have said every year it's just do your job, but nobody actually understands what my job is. And I'm not even sure that I understand what my job is. That's what the feedback, like they're putting one foot in front of the other, but they have no idea where they're actually going. It's not that they don't understand the mission of the organization. They absolutely understand the mission of the organization, but they're not clear what expectations their supervisors have for them, for their role, for their piece of the overall puzzle. And then they're angry, frustrated, upset when they get feedback that they may not be meeting that goal, but they say that they never knew what that goal was to begin with, or they're not meeting that expectation. So being proactive and having those meaningful conversations and creating once the tools that allow your team to set clear expectations. The tool gets used year after year, but you're not recreating from scratch. The goals may change, the expectations may change, but there's too much doing it off the back of a napkin 15 minutes before you're actually supposed to be having a meeting with someone, as opposed to strategically thinking and building tools, which don't take a lot of time. And you don't have to recreate the wheel each leader does not need to recreate the wheel. So having those tools for these important discussions, coaching and teaching people how to have difficult conversations without antagonizing or making it personal, but making it about the job and the mission, how to give actionable feedback as opposed to just moaning that somebody is not doing what you need them to do. It really is looking at things of, well, if I have two direct reports and I have to do this twice, shouldn't I do it once and do it well and then be able to reutilize? So, it still needs to be customized, but look at everything from a framework standpoint and from a trend-based mindset that really allows you to scale better. We've already talked a little bit about celebrating wins, and this sense of belonging. There are some really, and the next slide is all about like things that you can do on a budget, but this does not need to be a high cost. They really are just an investment in your people of time. The other thing that makes people strategy scalable, and I mentioned this early, is that you need to teach, coach, equip your leaders at every level. It's not only the executive director's job. Um, Linda, if you have 5 staff and 100, or let's just call it 80 volunteers, not all of that burden does not fall on you and does not fall on your volunteer coordinator if you even have that as a job in your organization. People strategy can come from the highest level and the lowest level of the organization. It's just about good ideas that can come together. So I, you know, I'm happy to give you a bunch of examples, but I'm curious for both from both of you, like, what's your biggest challenge that you have in your organization right now with your people? And maybe we can try to solve for that as a group. Do you have trouble finding people? Do you have trouble keeping them? I know, Linda, you said, your newest volunteers turn over pretty quickly.
Yes, we have, that's probably our biggest thing is we have great volunteers, but they're doing all the work. So it's hard to recruit new volunteers that can help carry the load and sustain us, and have succession planning like we would want.
Is that because your existing volunteers don't want to give up power or control? Or is that like, tell me more.
Oh, no, it's not that they don't want to give up control. In fact, some of them stay on because we can't find anybody to help fill some of the roles that they're currently taking charge of. It's just getting people involved. And I think, we saw, I think Sandy referred to that, like we saw a big shift after COVID. People just have a different mindset. And I think post COVID, they realized that life is very precious and they limit themselves to what they now volunteer in. So we've seen a decrease in engagement for new volunteers, and then it's also harder to retain them.
What does your onboarding of your volunteers look like?
So we have a mentorship program. So, and then we have staff and boards that are liaisons to all committees. So all of them have connections and help mentor everyone. We have a mentorship manual too to help.
Are people following it?
My staff follows it, but I have a hard time with most of our leadership following it too.
Yeah, I'm not surprised to hear you say that. I'm sad to hear you say that, but I'm not surprised to hear you say that. Um, I know it feels like one more thing, but one of my clients, they have everything very similar to what you are talking about, and they actually sat with a focus. They created theirs, probably they created it first well before COVID, and then like they've updated it a little bit like during COVID and then a little bit after. Um, the challenge was that the people that were refining it were the people who had been there for a long time, as opposed to really getting feedback and input from some of the newer volunteers of what do you need more of? What would make you feel more committed to us? What could we do? What could we consider, broadly, and really working with them as a focus group to enhance and improve and frankly, to cut out some of the stuff which felt very sacred for a very long time because it had been what they were doing and how we do things around here. But because they received some very specific feedback, they were able to say that it's it's no longer adding the value that we thought that it added. Even though, and I mean, I'm thinking of a very, very, very specific case, even though one of our board members absolutely loves this and this is her favorite part of volunteering, but if it's not adding value, then you've got to reconsider everything. I don't know if that is something that you have considered before, but it is variations on that are things that several organizations right now, I know are just relooking at things through new eyes.
Yes, this is Linda again. So about 2 years ago, we looked at our committees and the charges they had, and some of them were not as successful. So we evaluated what kind of the overlap was, and we took 3 committees down to and merged them into one, and 2 committees and merged them into one. So we did reevaluate what we were doing and what we needed to make those committees successful.
That is really good. And if you're still struggling with, bringing new people into the pipeline and then those that you do bring in, retaining them, maybe your next step is to look at how you're onboarding them and what the mentor program actually looks like and how you are getting feedback from them on some sort of a basis. Sandy, do you have an example?
I'm just thinking through who who benchmarks value, and how can you kind of meet people where they are by acknowledging the value of what they're doing, um, and how that applies to the overall mission and the overall um, value of those initiatives. Because I think sometimes it's not so clear what brings value to an organization. And so if leadership feels that money is value, then engagement of people and greater awareness and things like that might not receive the value that it deserves, because those are the things that create the foundation that allow other things to be successful and sustainable. So it's
Yes, and can we do a yes and on this?
yes, and
Um, so that's where creating metrics for what your goals are,
Mhm.
so it is really critically important. So yes, there is value in fundraising and dollars and all of that, but can you say that if you state from the beginning that we currently have 11 gazillion people involved in this activity, and is that number growing? Is it shrinking? Are we looking like really systemically thinking about how would we know that this program has value? Just because people are participating, that may or may not mean that it is valuable. Are they participating and it's free? If that's the case, is there a small contribution that they could make to show some value, to prove its value in a different way or to reinforce its value is actually what I meant to say. Are there metrics? I mean, I deal with this all the time in human resources of how do you value retention? How do you value, your ability to hire? All of those things are really critical, but there are statistics that you can look at and you can set goals around. We want to retain, our number is nowhere near where we want it to be. We currently have, only retain 20% of any new volunteers come back for the third time. In the next year, we want to get that number to 35%, whatever it is. I'm totally making these numbers
Mhm.
up, but
Yeah.
there are ways to really say to a leader or to your board, I see that you value this. I'm not sure that we are considering other things that can be valued but are not as easily measured. So let's come up with some ways to measure them.
That makes sense.
As we're getting close to the end of our time, I do want to just give you some ideas of things that really make an impact with staff and volunteers and don't cost a lot of money. So ongoing feedback loops, regular one-on-one meetings where you are balancing, hey, let's talk about the tasks that need to be, that either have done, haven't been done in looking backwards, or what is coming up. The tasks are one part of the job of the discussion. But the other part is really helping your leaders to have open dialogue and to be taught how to ask questions so that employees do feel heard and valued and have opportunities to address their concerns proactively. There are scripts that we can give there that can be developed. There's consistency that can be created so that it's not like, oh, Sally's team always does this and they're amazing at it, and Susie's team does not. And but there are things that you can do to teach people how to feel comfortable giving feedback and how to have a 2-by-2 dialogue, that it's not just the supervisor going down, but that feedback is coming back and that feedback will be heard. Offering skip level meetings. So if somebody reports to someone else, having someone else check in with them once every 6 months, once a year, to be like, hey, my door is always open, but let's actually, you can come to me at any point in time, but let's actually just have a conversation, hey, are you available on Tuesday? I'd love to hear what's working, what's not working. Um, Creative compensation. Look, we're all being burdened with financial constraints right now. But non-monetary perks, you know, flexibility wherever you can offer it, time off, leadership development opportunities, shadowing opportunities, an opportunity to participate in an event that they may not have otherwise been invited to. Um, Providing these kinds of benefits, offering someone a little bit more flexibility in their hours where you can, or mental health days, or even I was just at a big HR conference where people were talking about um, like truly just on a, not every Friday, not even once a month, but on random days they just get an email that says, guess what? We've accomplished what we've need to accomplish this week. It's Friday. It's at 3 o'clock. Close your computers. Let's be done. And just like, yes, would they love to know it in advance so that they could make plans? Absolutely. But are they also just so appreciative of like a little perk, a little surprise? Yes, they are. And that was something that a lot of these HR leaders have been talking about is like these little surprises really can make a huge impact. Lots of organizations are really leaning into um, professional development. And it does not need to be expensive. I mean, yes, many of them are offering, hey, we'll give, you have this amount in our budget for the year, but more of them are really looking to say, yes, I will give you the time to go to this free event or this conference and I would love to build off of what you've learned and also give you the opportunity. This doesn't work for everybody, but it works for a lot of people. Like you're going to do this. Okay, a week afterwards, how about you spend 15 minutes at our team meeting and tell us the big takeaways from it? Help educate all of us. And they're being very deliberate about saying to people, this is for your professional development. I want to, like, just doing it makes it feel like work, but leaning into, here's why I'm asking you to do this and explaining and being transparent about it, all of a sudden folks are starting to understand that. So anything you can do with wellness, I spoke about, mental health or a little bit of time off and these growth activities that are out there. Recognition blitzes does not need to be fancy. I have one client, everybody is remote. They have the seal of approval. It is literally a small stuffed animal that is a seal that gets shipped once a month and it's so silly. It is so silly. But then, and I don't know if any of you have kids, but if you know Flat Stanley, everybody the person who has the seal of approval, they live all over the country. And so like they take their seal to different places. So it builds like a whole community of wackiness. But it's amazing because people are sharing about their personal lives, people are sharing about their communities, and it really has turned into something. And like, what was it? $15 for the stuffed animal and $4 for one employee to recognize another employee once a month. This is not a big deal. So these relatively low effort but high impact moves can be really, really critical. And there are so many new I, well, there's so many things that are out there right now dealing with wellness and burnout. Focus Fridays. Hey, we're not having any meetings has become super popular. Teach Back Tuesdays. Who's going to volunteer to, teach us something? And most of the time it's the work-related things, but some of the time it's, basket weaving because that's my passion, not my actual passion. Um, and the other thing that I would say is that there are so many free and low cost resources that are out there right now for not-for-profits. The nonprofit cooperative is an amazing resource with so many tools that are available just for downloading. Um, and there's many others that are out there also. Um, so I know we're at the end of our time, but I really encourage you to think about how your people are not an administrative burden, but instead are something to be invested in so that you can truly maximize your mission, maximize what they are doing, because that is what will allow you to reach your organization's full potential. I can stay. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have or brainstorm on anything that you actually have going on. I did create a feedback prep guide because that is often what people ask me about the most, like, how do I get ready to give feedback? What do I have to do? So if you go to this QR code, or you could send Natalie an email and send me an email, and I can give you the website to go if you don't have a phone readily available. That is available for you to download. If you have other questions after this, definitely feel free, reach out, schedule a time. I'm happy to brainstorm with you for a couple minutes. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm a regular poster on topics of leadership and being a good human to your employees, being a good leader, the future of work, and things like that. And I'm happy to stick around and answer anything.
Thank you, Rachel. This was awesome.
Thank you so
Lin-
much. I have to jump off, but I will reach out to you. I'll set up an appointment to just chat and follow up.
Amazing, Sandy. I look forward to it. Thank
Thanks
you.
so much. You too.
Okay.
And
Rachel,
with that,
yes,
unless you have anything, Linda,
I'm good, but thank you so much. That was wonderful information.
My
and that
pleasure.
that concludes our webinar. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Linda and Sandy, and have a great rest of your day, everyone. Bye-bye.